All right, I'm going to go ahead and get us started here. Thank you so much for everyone for joining us today. My name is Will Simpson. I am the Los Angeles Upwork Ambassador, and today's webinar is going to be focused on the supplier diversity certifications on Upwork. And we're fortunate enough to be joined by two experts on this topic. First up, we have Bianca, who is a social impact product manager with Upwork, and she has over 15 years of experience in product strategy and execution from inception all the way through to development. She has a proven ability to create products that empower users and tools which enable a more inclusive and fair marketplace. Crystal Burns is also joining us. She is a supplier diversity and outreach expert. She specializes in developing, implementing, and communicating diversity initiatives. She has over 10 years of experience in supplier diversity and outreach, and she launched her own supplier diversity consulting firm called Inclusect in 2019. Forging a new path of sharing knowledge and expertise, helping organizations support women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses, and a diverse workforce. Now, throughout the presentation, I would ask that you please have all of your questions put in the Q&A section rather than the chat. That gives us the ability to go ahead and track what has and has not been answered. And I'll be go ahead and typing those responses back. And if it's a really good question to bring up as a group, I'll go ahead and pause on the direct response and save it for the Q&A session at the end. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it to our lovely presenters today.
Thanks, Will, and thank you everyone for being here today. Really excited to share more about this topic of supplier diversity and in particular certifications. So really, let's start out with what is diversity certification and what is supplier diversity? Supplier diversity is a strategy for diversifying a company's supply chain by leveraging minority, women, veteran, LGBT, and disabled-owned businesses. This provides companies and employers with new approaches to sourcing talent and vendors that address their goals and challenges while simultaneously improving employment outcomes for those who historically face barriers to opportunity. Supplier diversity as a sort of industry is really rooted in the idea of building intergenerational wealth for historically underrepresented communities. This really helps build a stronger and more inclusive workforce. I do want to talk a little bit about the history of supplier diversity. So supplier diversity might be a new term to you, maybe you're familiar with it and you've heard it many times before. But it really dates back to the American Civil Rights Movement of the 1960s, when in 1961, President John F. Kennedy amended a federal order to take affirmative action into consideration for federal contracting. Then in the late 60s, a combination of sort of social, economic, and political conditions compelled private companies like IBM, AT&T, General Motors, to really think critically and start to launch their own supplier diversity programs. Then kind of fast forward to the 1970s, President Nixon established the Office of Minority Business, which required government agencies to contract with minority-owned businesses and sort of track the data around that. So are they getting RFPs? Are they actually getting some of this contracting work? As we fast forward to today, supplier diversity programs can be part of a company's effort to maintain high moral and ethical standards. Inclusive procurement delivers sort of societal benefits around creating economic opportunities for disadvantaged communities. It's also a selling point when you're hiring diverse talent, and it sort of widens the pool of potential suppliers and promotes competition. So now let's kind of dive a little bit deeper into what exactly supplier diversity certification is. It is a certification for your business that's offered through a third-party certification agency. To qualify, you must be, your business must be 51% or greater, owned and operated by people of color, women, LGBT, military veterans, or disabled individuals. The certification process, which we'll dive into a little bit more deeply here in a little bit, will involve documentation, interviews, even sometimes on-site visits in order to confirm that your business is indeed diverse. The application, depending on the agency, can take several weeks to get approved, maybe longer during this pandemic. But once you're certified, your business instantly becomes more attractive to people with supplier diversity programs. So gaining that third-party certification as a diverse business is a must to make yourself attractive to large companies and government entities that have a true interest in supporting diverse businesses. More than half of companies right now that have supplier diversity programs require a third-party certification to ensure the integrity of their own programs. I also want to cover the common types of certifications. There are a lot of acronyms as we get into supplier diversity. These are just a few of the many acronyms that you will hear. But because Upwork is in the early stages of enabling supplier diversity on our platform, we're first focusing on the 5 key groups recognized by the $1 Billion Roundtable. Those are disabled, LGBT, minority, women, and veteran-owned businesses. We are not currently supporting certifications for small, disadvantaged, or hub zone businesses. I know I mentioned the $1 Billion Roundtable and want to take a quick moment to talk a little bit about that. The $1 Billion Roundtable is a third-party membership organization of some of the world's largest companies. And by being a member of that organization, those companies are committed to spending $1 billion or more annually with certified diverse businesses. So it's one more really compelling reason if you're looking to work with some of the Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies, that's a great inroad into kind of getting a leg up into that. The $1 Billion Roundtable has very specific requirements as to which diversity certifications they recognize. Those happen to be the National Minority Supplier Development Council, or NMSDC, the Women's Business Enterprise National Council, or WBENC, the National Veteran Business Development Council, NVBDC, Disability In, and NGLCC, which is the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce. So those are kind of the big 5 that we focus on here in the US. Kind of beyond those 5 agencies, diversity certifications can be issued by federal, state, and local government entities, as well as organizations like the Small Business Association, and the Department of Veteran Affairs has the Vet Biz group. And there are many other certifying bodies. It really depends on what your goals are as a business and who you want to work with. I also wanted to touch a little bit on going global. I know this is a question we hear a lot from our clients as well as members of our Upwork community. In reading our community forum feedback when we first launched this feature to get a badge on your profile, we definitely heard the need for expanding to a more global audience. So while the United States has been working on federal and private supplier diversity programs for decades, it wasn't until the early 2000s that other countries really started to step back and evaluate their policies and consider ways to better support underrepresented communities within their own walls. The UK, Canada, Australia, they've all adopted some diversity regulations. The EU and Asia have been a little bit slower to move. And then you'll kind of see here at the far side of the slide, countries like China, Mexico, India, they're all in very nascent stages of creating supplier diversity programs to really elevate and uplift these underrepresented groups. So as I mentioned a little earlier, we are in the really early stages of rolling out this program on the Upwork platform, and we're actively looking at ways to expand our geographic reach. We've just chosen the US to start with the very clear guidelines that have been set out and are really looking forward to kind of growing this over the next year. And with that, I will hand it over to Crystal.
Hi, everybody. So glad to see you all here. So just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the benefits of being certified. Bianca did a wonderful job of explaining to you the history of it, but now we want to tell you why it's so important and how it can benefit your business. So just to start off with a few statistics, women in minority-owned businesses are booming right now in the United States. According to the Census Bureau, the number of women and minority-owned businesses continue to rise faster than non-minority-owned firms. So that means we're developing these businesses like this. Women of color in particular are outpacing all other segments. While the number of women-owned businesses grew 114% from 1997 to 2017, firms owned by women of color grew at more than 4 times that rate. So that's 467%. That's a big number. Study after study shows that companies with strong supplier diversity programs see greater return on investments, lower costs, more innovation, and overall positive impact on their bottom line. So, on to that, let's talk about, what the benefits are for you. So, I mean, it's good for companies, but let's talk about what's good for you. So, being a diverse certified business, you're more attractive to companies with supplier diversity programs. And Bianca touched on that a little bit earlier today. Most companies that have supplier diversity programs have auditing. That's a part of that. Whether they're doing federal contracting or whether they are reporting out, publicly through their social impact reports, they audit these things. And one way that they ensure that, the auditing is correct is that they only allow certified businesses to claim that they are certified, meaning you have to go through certified agencies and get that certificate before you can just say, oh, I'm a woman-owned business, or, oh, I'm a minority-owned business, because that keeps the paperwork clean. Another thing too is access to networking. So once you join these certifying agencies, because when you become certified, more than likely you're going to become a member of these agencies. So NMSDC, for example, they have all types of events where you can go and network with very, very large businesses like Pepsi, GM, Toyota. A lot of those large organizations are members of the NMSDC, and that's where they source for their suppliers. So not only do you have the certification that you can present, but you also get access to these businesses. There's all types of, I know there's a really big event that the NMSDC has, but there's lots of other organizations too that have, or certifying agencies that have these events as well. So you just need to go on their website and see what they have coming up. And once you become a member and you get that certification, it would serve you well to go to a couple of these events and kind of put yourself out there as far as business development goes. And I'll get to that in a minute. Also, once you become certified, you get better access to capital. So if you're trying to scale your business and you need a little bit more money, the SBA does guarantee loans for businesses that are certified as small businesses. So I know a lot of times when you're starting out, it's a little hard because your business doesn't have credit and, you're just a small operation. But one of the benefits of being certified through SBA is that you have access to capital, and those banks are more willing to give you money because it's guaranteed by SBA. And then, like I said before, access to business development resources. So when you join these agencies, there's, not only networking opportunities, but some of them have affiliates that are throughout the United States. So let's say, for example, I keep using NMSDC, but there's lots of other ones. But if you decide to join them and they have their conference in San Diego, and you're just a small shop, you can't make it to San Diego to go to that networking event. They may have a local chapter that's closer to you that you can go to that will have the same benefit, but just on a smaller scale. They'll have the local businesses there, probably maybe set up like a trade show or something like that, where you can still have that same access to those businesses. Okay, next slide. I think you're next, Bianca. Yes, you're talking about the Upwork certification badge.
Yeah, so kind of building on what Crystal mentioned for benefits, we now have this opportunity to get a badge on your Upwork profile. We really encourage our talent based in the US, this is a US based feature right now, to add their diversity certification to their profile. So to do that, you'll navigate to your profile, You'll see a new section on that left-hand side that says diversity certification, and click the plus icon. We'll ask you for some information, which I'll show you shortly. And once that information has been verified, you'll get a badge on your profile. This badge is visible only to our enterprise clients. So enterprise clients tend to be large companies, many of whom have supplier diversity programs and specific goals around engagement with certified talent. What we ask for, these are just some quick screenshots, but we ask for your business name. You can identify what type of business you have by diversity sort of classification. And then we'll ask you to provide what diversity certification you actually have. So you'll need to kind of read this and give us the certificate name, your certification number, the expiration date, etc. It is worth noting, we've seen a fair amount of confusion in this sort of second step where we ask you to add your diversity certification. A lot of what we're seeing is, people are selecting that first button for NMSDC or the National Minority Supplier Development Council in this example, when really they're certified through, say, the state of Virginia. If you have a different certification other than sort of that default one at the top, please select I have a different certification, that second button, where you can fill in the full details. These should still be a state or local diversity certification. So if you're a military veteran and you have a DD-214, if you're certified in counseling the LGBT community, or maybe you've taken a course in anti-racism, these are not business level certifications, but they're still valuable. So it's worth adding that information to either the skill certification or the portfolio section of your profile, because potential clients would still find it valuable. Also, because of this confusion, we will be changing this user experience slightly in the coming weeks. So in addition to asking for your legal business name, we will also be asking for your business address, which kind of helps us more quickly validate your certification. And then we're also going to move to a dropdown. So rather than this sort of couple of buttons you can select from, we'll have a dropdown list and you can select, this is the certifying agency and the certification that I have. So hopefully that will make it easier for you as you complete your details. Back to you, Crystal.
All right, so let's talk about the money, y'all. So the federal government spends more than $400 billion each year on products and services, of which 23% of that must go to small and diverse businesses. The Small Business Administration works with government agencies to make sure that these federal supply diversity requirements are met. So let me tell you a little bit about federal contractings. Oh, actually, you know what? Let me go back. So while we're talking about the benefits of supply diversity and how it would be wonderful for you to be certified for Upwork, this is an opportunity for you to expand this certification and take this beyond Upwork and make money and develop your business. So federal contracts expected to exceed $700,000 or $1.5 million for construction are required to subcontract a certain amount of that money to diverse suppliers. So if you're looking to develop your business outside of Upwork or any company for that matter, and you want to go into federal contracting, there's money out there for you to make. There's money set aside out there for you. The federal government sets annual goals for procurement of goods and services for certified small businesses that register on SAM. So SAM is the system for award management. And so if you decide that you want to go out and branch into the federal space as a supplier or as a contractor, you would need to register through SAM. And here's another thing. You can also be certified through SAM. So 2 for 1 there. You can not only develop your business by getting new contracts or becoming subcontractors for other businesses. You can also become certified by registering yourself on there. And then most private sector companies require you to have a legit diversity certification. I don't know how many times I'm going to tell you this today, but it's the fact. So if you want to branch out into the federal contracting space, you have to have diversity certifications because it comes back to auditing purposes. And these businesses need to make sure that when they're reporting back to the federal government, that they are using legitimately certified diverse businesses. All right. So Bianca already touched on these a little bit, but these are the different certifying bodies that are available. There are how many, Bianca? Thousands, actually.
Probably thousands. I know of at least 250 different ones across
Right.
the US.
She has a running list of all of that we're aware of, but these are the more prominent ones and the ones that we're familiar with and the ones that could, give you value for what the process you're going to go through to become certified. But one thing that you need to pay particular attention to is make sure that you are becoming certified in an agency where you identify as. So, we have disability, we have the NGLCC, NMSDC, all of these certify people based on how they identify. So, for example, disability N, you would have to have a disability to for them to certify you. The NGLCC, you would have to be a part of the LGBTQIA plus community. Or NMSDC, it's any minorities in the United States. The NVBDC, that's for veterans. The Pan-Asian American is for Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. And then, of course, the others, self-explanatory, Veterans Affairs, of course, veterans, and WBENC, WBENC, are for women-owned businesses. Okay, y'all. Now here is the money slide. Now we've talked about, all of the different, the history of certification, the benefits of getting certified. But let's talk about how you prepare yourself to get certified. Because people are always telling you, yeah, you need to get certified, go and get certified. But it's like, how do I even do that? Like, what does that even mean? So first, there's about 4 questions you need to ask yourself to get yourself set up and ready to do this process. So I'm going to go through each one of these because it's very important. So which certifying agency fits my ownership? That is what I was just talking about. So you need to do your research and figure out which certification you qualify for. So for an example, if you're a Black man, you may want to go through NMSDC because it's for minority-owned businesses, and you would qualify, to be certified through them. But let's say you are a woman, a Black woman. You can go through NMSDC because you're a minority, but you can also go through WBENC because they certify women. So you need to really think about, one, how do I identify and which agency, would do this certification. But then another thing to think about too is, before I go through this process of being certified through this agency, what businesses do I want to use the certification for? And do they allow this, or do they accept this certification? A few slides back, Bianca showed you the different certifications that Upwork accepts. So make sure you do your research first before you invest your time and money into becoming certified. Like I say, you may qualify for one, you may qualify for many, but make sure you're doing that research first, especially if you're going to use this as a tool for business development. How much does it cost for me to do this? Yes, it does cost money. It does cost money. Some are free. SAM, for example, that is free. You may be able to find some other type of certification that's free, but then again, you got to think about, is this certification accepted by the businesses that I want to do business with? Costs can vary across the board. it could go upwards of $1,500 or more, depending on the agency and depending on the type of certification that you're getting. And then once you are certified, you need to understand that sometimes there are renewals that you have to do. And with those renewals, whether it's annually, semi-annually, every 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is, there could be some costs that will incur with that too. So make sure you make that consideration when you decide, okay, this is the agency that I'm going to go with, but you need to know you need to budget money, moving forward so that you can remain a certified business. Because it does expire. Okay. It's not a one-time thing where you can go through the process and then you're done and you're certified forever. No, it doesn't work like that. You have to maintain that certification, and there's different steps that you have to take to do that based off of the agency that you're getting certified through. So keep that in mind. How much time can I dedicate to this process? That depends. So, like I said before, every agency is different as far as what they require, with getting certified. And I can tell you from experience, it does not happen overnight. It takes some time. Even if you're going through SAM, which is the free one, it still takes some time to go through this process. Each one is different, but there's so many different steps that are involved. There's financial paperwork that's involved. Sometimes there's site visits involved. So you have to be prepared that this is not something that you can get tomorrow if you're planning on doing this, okay? And then, is the certification accepted everywhere? This is something that I said before. You need to think about who you want to do business with first before you invest your money and your time in this. It's wonderful that you're certified, because you can put that out there on your website, or you can use that as your business development tool. But like I said, you need to make sure that the companies you want to do business with accept that certification. And most of them do that. The slide before this one, most of those organizations are accepted at larger organizations with more mature supply diversity programs, and some newer supply diversity programs. I won't say mostly mature, but those are very prominent certifying agencies, and you should be okay, but make sure you do your research before you go through that. Where else can you use this? Like I said before, it's beyond Upwork. It's any company that has supplier diversity programs. You can use it in the federal space if you're trying to, break into federal contracting. So it's not something that you can get and only use one time. I'm telling you, it's worth it. So if you have the time and the money to invest in this process, I definitely recommend that you do that. Okay, so what to expect? Like I said before, it depends. It depends on which organization you're certifying through. Bianca and I talked about this yesterday, trying to come up with like a high level list, but please don't think this is, all inclusive and a whole, the whole laundry list. But some of the things that you can expect when you're going through this process is, of course, the applicant form. Who doesn't do that? Everybody's going to the applicant form. But you also may need to have a proof of legal business entity. So if you're like, my business is an LLC. So when I was becoming certified, they asked for my articles of organization. If you're corporate, they may ask for your articles of incorporation. So, be ready to expect these kind of requests. They ask for your business license, proof of citizenship, status, tax returns. That's also talking about the financial piece, current financial statements. They want to know that your business is doing well. And then maybe even a short history of your business. You may have to write a little paragraph or two about, explaining your business, what you're doing, who you do business with, how well is your business going. You may need a list of your board of directors. It could be any, the gamut of anything. But the point we're trying to make is like I said, it's not something that's going to happen fast, and it's not something that's going to happen overnight. And it's going to require some research, and it's going to require you gathering some documentation in order for you to become certified. And as a matter of fact, some of them even require a possible site visit. So if you're working from home, you can expect a knock on the door saying, yeah, we want to see your office space. Here we want to do an interview with you. So, we just wanted to give you an idea of what to expect through this process, and just know that it's not going to be easy. However, if you take the time and the energy to invest in this, I'm telling you, it will open up doors that you probably wouldn't have ever, had access to before. And it'll give you a certain visibility that you may not have had before either. So really think about that.
Before we jump into the Q&A, Crystal, I have a couple of questions I'm hoping you can answer for the audience.
Okay.
And one of those is, we're talking a lot about this is a business level certification. Maybe you can tell everyone, one, kind of what was the turning point for you to decide to go from just an individual to actually registering as an LLC? And then from the LLC, when did you make that decision to get diversity certified?
So for me, the first question was, I always wanted to be an official business, because I feel like when you can present yourself as a business, you appear more organized, you seem like you got your stuff together, like, yeah, okay, she's a business. Look at her, she's an LLC. So, she knows some things about, at least starting a business. We'll see how she does with running the business. But, I think it gives you a level of, more professionalism when you actually either incorporate your business or, form an LLC. Now, what made me decide to go through the certification process was I was trying to get business and it was happening, right? So I was like, well, maybe I can do, certification, and then maybe, that'll help, because I was just putting out there, yeah, I'm a minority owned and a woman owned business. I'm checking two boxes. You want to do business with me? And they were like, yeah, nah. Not without that certification. Sorry. So I was just like, well, okay, well, I guess I'll, try to go through this process. I thought that, just appearing as a Black woman, that would be enough, but it doesn't, because, like I said before, a lot of these organizations have auditing processes, and they need to be able to prove that this business they're spending money with is actually who they say they are, especially in the federal space, because, these suppliers, these prime suppliers, can get in a lot of trouble if they say, yes, we spent $100,000 with a woman-owned minority business, but they can't prove it. So that was why I did what I did.
Perfect. Thank you so much. There's amazing information, a lot of really good questions as this was all going through. So this time I'd like to sort of circle back with some of these questions.
Sure.
And for those that submitted questions, if we don't end up having time to get to them, or if they're more of like a personal nature, we'll go ahead and circle back with you. But I'm going to go ahead and bring up some questions we have here. So there was a couple questions related to blindness, and if that qualifies for one of these certifications. Do we know if blindness or severe vision impairment is one of the things on our list?
Absolutely. If you are visually impaired, hearing impaired, even autism, I think also qualifies under Disability In. So definitely take a look at Disability In is sort of like our big national one. There are some state and local ones, but Disability In will really open a lot of doors for you. They identify disability-owned businesses, disabled veteran-owned businesses, as well as service-disabled veteran-owned businesses. So you have a lot of options there.
Right.
Perfect. Okay, I think so a lot of people are asking for, if I qualify for X, Y, or Z. This is an example of one, and then I think maybe we'll have an umbrella answer. The question was, I'm running a woman-led business, having 80% women colleagues. How will my business be identified as a diverse business, and is it US-based only?
So I'm sorry. So the question is,
She was asking how will her business be identified as a diverse business. So maybe if we can supply the correct acronym link to whichever one. I know there's a whole bunch of acronyms flying around here.
Okay. Yeah.
But
So WeMake is probably the best way to go for that one. That encompasses woman-owned businesses. So that's woman, help me out, Bianca, women's business. Is it enterprise?
Enterprise
National
Council.
Council. Okay, yeah. It's a lot of acronyms, but yes, WeMake would be the best one to go through if you're a woman-owned business.
Bianca or
Will,
Crystal,
I do
do
want
you
to
have that
touch on
link
that.
handy?
Yes, I think I can share that link with you in just a moment. I do also want to call out that I think you phrased it as women-led. So if you're a company and your CEO is a woman, that is awesome, but that is not enough to be considered a woman-owned business. So kind of going back to what we talked about early on, the business itself, the actual owners of the business, it needs to be 51% or greater owned by, in this case, a woman. And so it's really important to know how your business is structured. It's not just who the leaders are or who the employees are within that business.
Good point.
Perfect. Great point. And there's been a few different ways of phrasing this next question, and it's regarded to the cost associated with the program. I'm going to go ahead and expand on that. The costs associated to, the range of costs associated to getting the diversity certifications through these external bodies, and then the cost associated to getting the badge on Upwork. Can we speak to both of those points?
So the cost, like I said, I mean, it varies depending on the agency that you go through. So you need to go, and the cost changes as well. So I don't want to give you a number and then you go out there and you're like, wait a minute, it's $5,000 more than. So, you'd have to do your research and see, but the cost varies, across the different agencies. But like I said, if you want to start somewhere where it's free, you can use SAM to start that process, and it'll kind of to give you an idea of what it's like to go through being certified. So that's one good place to start, and then at least you can get certified for free.
From the Upwork side, there is no cost to adding your certification to your profile. So Upwork is not the certifying agency in this case. We are looking at those other third parties, and that's the information you're providing. So it's perfectly free to add it to your profile, and then we just go through a manual verification process.
Perfect. Great. Yeah, there's quite a few questions on that one. So to be clear and expand on that one, Upwork does not set the different certification requirements, whether you fit into these categories or you apply, and Upwork does not charge for the badge. It's you externally getting your certification through whichever entity, getting that badge, providing it to Upwork. Upwork then applies it to your account.
Exactly.
Thank you. There's another question here. The diversity certification badge, is this only visible to enterprise clients at this time? And is there any logic behind that, or is it just simply because it's a pilot program and we're starting there?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yes, today it is only visible to our enterprise customers. That was done really intentionally for a couple of reasons. One is these are companies, most of them have established supplier diversity programs or specific initiatives to support certain groups. So given the events in the United States last year, we've heard a lot of companies expressing interest in supporting Black and African American owned businesses. We've had a lot of conversations around veteran owned businesses. So we felt like this was a really good starting point. We don't have any current plans to open this badge visibility to a broader audience, but it is something we're really thinking about, and we want to do that really thoughtfully so that we're not introducing any additional bias or discrimination in the job post and hiring process on the Upwork platform.
Perfect. And then when they obtain the badge, will it be placed below or above the skills certificates in regards to the profile layout?
So it's actually on that left-hand rail. So it's right below your education will be the diversity certifications. So it's sort of, I guess however many degrees you have is how low it will be.
Got it. And then once they get the certification and they submit it to us at Upwork, how long does it take for that to show up on their profile typically?
We like to say about 3 business days. We have a very small team of people doing it right now, and hopefully as the program grows, we'll work on automating some of that review cycle, as well as having a few more hands on deck.
And if they, let's say after 3 days, if it's not shown up, should they contact support? Is that the best
Yes,
channel?
we do have a couple of dedicated support people who can reach out to the team.
Perfect, great. And then this question has been come up a few times, a few different ways. What if you have multiple certifications, you fit multiple categories? Is there an advantage to having multiple certifications? And that may be split up into 2 sections, outside of Upwork and also in Upwork.
So I think that depends on what your business goals are. You know, it's great, you know, if you want to go through the process to get both. But, you know, like I had mentioned before, you want to make sure that, you know, the businesses that you're going after accept whatever certification that you get. And I mean, before you consider taking on a second certification, you may be okay with just one, you know, so it depends on, you know, what your business goals are, and then also, you know, how you want to identify your business. So, you know, if you are a minority, most organizations are going to accept the NMSDC. And then if you're a woman, most organizations are going to accept the WBAG certification. So if you want to just do just one of those, that's fine. But if you want to identify your business as, you know, not just one certification, like not just a minority or not just a woman, then of course, you know, go for it. Get as many as you want, but just make sure that, you know, it makes sense for your business to get, you know, that many.
Perfect, thank you. Got a lot of good questions here. I'm just trying to filter through. Oh, so this one's come up in a few different ways. Are there any certifications that apply to freelancers who aren't LLCs? So if you're just a sole proprietor, you haven't set up an LLC, can you still go through the process with these different certification agencies?
Absolutely. If you're a sole proprietorship, and you're working under something other than your social security number, so you therefore have a business entity of some kind, you can go through these certification processes. We have seen other examples of companies like Yelp or Google or Facebook, where you can add a user attribute, self-identifying as a certain type of community individual. That is not something we're enabling right now on the Upwork platform. I see Roma here also understands, like, we want to be really conscious about how we enable things like attributes and diversity certifications, because we are a global platform and a lot of people have a lot of opinions. So we want to make sure that we're doing this in a very thoughtful way.
Perfect. Okay.
Will, would you mind if I ask Crystal another question?
Yeah, please. While I filter through, feel free.
Sure. Crystal, so you mentioned, you know, getting certified can open some unexpected doors, and I'm wondering if you have any stories of unexpected doors that opened once you got your certification.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure you guys have experienced this, right? So if you are a 1 or 2 or 3 person shop, you're doing everything for your business. You're doing the marketing, you're doing business development, you know, you're doing finance, AP, all that, you know, you're handling everything for your business, right? So one of the things that you have to do is try to get more business. And, you know, you hear all this talk about, yeah, there's supplier diversity, you know, there's companies that are looking to do business with women-owned businesses or minority-owned businesses. And I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, I can do that. You know, I'm gonna go through this process so that I can do that. And like I said, I just kept hitting the brick wall because they're like, you know, oh, sorry, you know, you need a certification in order to register with our database. Now, how many of y'all have gone through the process of registering through a supplier diversity or any type of supplier database with an organization, and it's like your information just goes into a black hole. Like you go through all of this, putting your capability statement in, and doing all the questions that they're asking for and all that, and you just never get a call back. And I was like, well, why is this happening? Like, I'm telling you, a Black woman and I own a business, but it was because I wasn't certified. So they were like, go back, get your certification. And then once you do that, then, come back to us later. So after I got my certification, I got a call back from 4 different organizations. They were like, we wanted to do business with you, but one of the issues that we had was that you weren't certified. And we require all of our, suppliers to be certified. So just in the span of, I would say maybe 3 months, I got 4 separate calls back from 4 different agencies that I wanted to, organizations that I wanted to do business with, just because I became certified. Isn't that crazy? I'm the same person. I'm the same, it's the same business, but they need to have that. Now, let me tell you this too. There are some organizations that do allow you to self-certify. So you may encounter that. So don't come back to us and say, we didn't even have to go through this process because they said we could self-certify. That's wonderful. That's great if you could find organizations that will allow you to not certify yourself. But I'm telling you, in the long run, it's going to pay off for you if you go ahead and go through the process. That way, if I don't know, maybe 6 months down the road, you're like, oh, I see Toyota has an RFP out here that I can totally support. But they're going to be like, listen, we only take in folks that are certified. So, but yeah, long story short, once I got certified, the door started opening.
Thanks,
Awesome.
Crystal. That's great.
Question here, this may be more directed towards the different certification processes, but do minority-owned business certifications include biracial individuals?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's based off of how you identify. I mean, of course you need to go through the agency to make sure that's acceptable, but I feel like it's okay. As long as you identify as a minority, you should be fine.
Yeah, I think Crystal's absolutely right. It will depend on the agency. I know with the National Minority Supplier Development Council, I think they might ask for a birth certificate as part of that sort of proof of minority status, or maybe you immigrated to the US from another country. That could also sometimes qualify on your immigration status.
So this question may have been addressed in a sideways way, but it's qualification or the certification on the Upwork side. Does it apply for agencies or just individual freelancers on the platform?
Right now we have it on freelancer profiles. We are actively working on agency profiles. We first launched it. We had some bugs. We had to take it down. So expect agencies to come through by the end of April.
Bianca, why don't you tell them too about the difference with the agency once you get to that point of certifying agencies, but the difference between the agency being certified and actually having underrepresented people or groups working at the agency, and how that affects certification.
Absolutely. So hopefully there's a lot of you on this call that are also agency owners or business managers at an agency on Upwork. If your agency is a registered legal business and you qualify for one of these diversity certifications, that is fabulous, and we will definitely want the agency owner to add that to the profile once we make that available later in April. That said, we've had a number of questions around which agencies can call themselves diverse. Again, this goes back to the ownership of the business. So that 51% or greater owned and operated by, that's sort of the magic number. So if I own a business and everyone that works at my agency is a veteran, that's great, but because I'm the owner and I'm not a veteran, I don't qualify. My business doesn't qualify. So what we're anticipating for agencies is the agency owner will need to provide that business level diversity certification on the agency profile. And they'll also be able to add that to their personal profile, the freelancer profile. When it comes to all the members of your agency, they will, in sort of like the search results, we often show the agency at kind of the bottom of the tile, and that agency will have the diversity badge. So they'll still show up, your agency members will still show up in that search with that little badge next to the agency, but not next to their profile because they're not the business owner.
Perfect. Good question. A couple good ones here as well. How old do you have to be to apply for certification? Do you have to be 18?
Oh,
It's a good question, huh?
That's a great question that I do not know the answer
I would
to. I have not
assume you
seen
have to
an
be
age
18,
restriction.
but you may have to go on the specific sites themselves just to see their restrictions.
yeah.
Logically, I would assume if they're assuming business owners and legal ability to sign on documents, I would assume 18 plus, but I can't speak for the different agencies.
Yeah, I've never gotten that question before, but it is a good one because there are a lot of younger people that are entrepreneurs that are, starting businesses up. So that's a good thing to research.
Yeah, great questions. I love it.
That was a good question.
And then for those that are curious about the agency, which is to come, the agency ability, should they submit their information now or wait until there's a call for it?
If you're an agency owner, by all means, go ahead and add it to your freelancer profile. You can have it in both locations, so it'll help kind of give you some visibility for the next few weeks until we have the agency profile ready for you.
Cool, perfect. And then this question's come up. So when we are getting these different certifications, if I get the certification as my LLC company, so my business is Will Do Graphics, but my profile on Upwork is Will Simpson. So if I'm getting my diversity certification through my Will Do Graphics, do I need to change my Upwork profile to match that name, or will it still be able to associate?
Got it. So I think hopefully I'm going to answer this question appropriately. You don't need to change your profile name. You can still be Will on Upwork. What we will ask you to do is to change, we have sort of a tax information page within the settings. So if you go into the top right corner, click on your little avatar, you'll see an option for settings. Within those settings, if you go to tax information, we do ask to enter your business information. So your legal business name and address.
Perfect. And there's a question here. If you're a minority/woman business owner, would it be better to go for the minority or woman business owner? And I think we addressed this earlier in saying different business needs require different certifications, and that's such a broad topic that you'd have to do your homework and see how it applies to your specific goals and business objectives. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. So,
which I know sounds like a wishy-washy answer, but it's just too broad of a question.
Yeah, and it depends on, what your goals are for your business and how you do your business development. So, and like we said before, like NMSDC and WeBank are very recognized across the organizations that have supplier diversity programs. So you're probably safe with either one of those, but make sure you do your research and finding out which one will work best for your business.
Perfect. Let's see here. I feel like we've gotten to the majority of the questions that are suitable for live discussion here. And we are running up to the end. For those that didn't have their questions directly answered, we will go ahead and follow up and at least have some communication there. Again, I'm going to post the link in the chat section for a feedback form. It's just a little Google form to tell us how we did and what you'd like to hear about. This really helps us in dialing in our content so that future presentations are just aces for everyone involved. So if you have just a moment or two after we close out this presentation, it'd be much appreciated. So Bianca, Crystal, thank you so much for all your help on this one. I think there was a lot of great information, and we look forward to doing more events like this. Again, the recording of this webinar will also be available. Let me post that link here in the chat as well in case anyone missed it. Let me see here. So you can actually see any of the previously recorded events here on the link I just put in the chat. There's upcoming events that you can register for, and then historical events that you can take a look at. But it's a great way to find out more information like this and just tips and tricks to succeed on Upwork. So thank you very much, everyone. I really appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank
Thanks, everybody.
you. Bye.